How about the fact that maybe, just maybe, and if so, it's an interesting twist to this whole portal, NIL, and everything else, right? That we talk about. It's interesting to me just to look at it and just talk about how the mighty are falling. And did they fall in a big way this weekend? And Cal had their opportunity. They had that game won, John, going into the fourth quarter against a Miami team with a Heisman pretty much quarterback sitting there throwing the football for him, who came from the Pac-12 actually back in the day. He was at Washington State. But John, what if I told you Bama was going to lose to Vanderbilt? What would you say? No way, probably. They never lose to Vanderbilt. So they lose. They're number one. Number 4 is Tennessee. They go out and all they do is lay an egg against Arkansas. And then Mizzou at number 9 gets a little bit cocky. They get beat up by a pretty damn good, well-coached Texas A&M team that's actually ranked number 25. But you can see where I'm going. Michigan, they're number 10. They collapsed against Washington. Number 17, USC. You know who they lost to? I think you do. University of Minnesota, baby. The Golden Gophers came through. The crowd came through. They rushed the field. PJ Fleck and everybody was excited beyond words. There was a lot of upsets this weekend, John. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. And you know what? To look at Florida State, who was number 10, and they've got NIL money. They've got all the things that they need to be successful. Everybody's got the portal, of course, but money is a big deal. Well, if I told you at the beginning of the year that a top 10 team, number 10, but a top 10 team was going to be 1-5 in the first 6, you'd go, I really doubt that. That's ridiculous. What if I told you this? Indiana is going to be 6-0 in the first FBS team that already has clinched eligibility for a bowl game. It's Indiana. Nobody else, because they've already played their 6 games, and they're 6-0. They've got a great quarterback. But you and I also talked about the kid out of Boise State. John, he is unstoppable. He's Barry Sanders, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years later. This is Barry Sanders. This guy, Gentry, is absolutely amazing. He deserves the Heisman practically right now for what he's put up. He's already had 1,000 yards. He's played 5 games. So I think at 11 yards a carry, this guy definitely is somebody that is really, really worthy of some accolades. And if somebody in the NFL is looking for a running back, this kid's going to be the guy. I mean, have you ever seen anything like this? Because I don't think we've ever had anything like this, John, with the top 17 teams. You've got loss.
Well, yeah, you're right. I know I have not seen a week as bad for ranked teams, Pete, as this. I mean, USC was either 9, 10, or 11, depending on the poll, and the Gophers took it to them. And could have beat Michigan last week. Should have beat Michigan last week. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, those Gophers, it looks like there's a lot of good Big Ten teams. And I'll tell you what, I don't think the Pac-12, the old Pac-12 teams, are happy about having to play in the Big Ten now, Pete, because with the exception of that Washington, and that's like a revenge game too, and it was played in Washington. Right. And I think, Pete, both I had that game, I believe, and you had the Cal game. You thought they might win outright, but shoot, they were getting what, 13, Pete?
Yeah.
And it was that close. Mm-hmm. So anybody that bet on either of those games probably a happy camper today.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, John, and I love the fact that Pat McAfee totally embraced Cal. They were in the dark. They had played. They had the night, the fraternities, and everybody had their parties or whatever. They showed up ready to roll, and it was one of the best game days ever, if not the best game day I've ever seen, and it was a lot of fun. And Pat McAfee got so caught up in it, he called Cal too. He goes, "I'm going with the Golden Bears." So it was great. It was really a lot of fun. I got my Golden Bears on or whatever, and I should have my Golden Gophers too, but you can only wear one at a time. All right, how about the NFL, John? If today we were going to have to settle on who's the championship of the AFC and the NFC, here's what I got. I think you'd agree, because just eyeball test plus records, it's easy so far. It would be the Kansas City Chiefs for me against Baltimore. Baltimore's record's not great. They started off a little slow, and they finally figured out, hey, we gave a lot of money to a running back by the name of King Henry, and why aren't we running the ball with this guy? And I'll tell you, John, I looked this guy up. He is so committed to being the best running back in football. It's incredible. He's he's 6'3". He weighs 255 pounds. He's 2% body fat. He's got his own dietitian who lives with him. He does not put anything in his body that he feels is going to be negative. And when he gets the ball, nobody on the defensive side wants to see that guy coming at him. So I think Baltimore and Kansas City for me in the AFC, with Houston kind of looking in from the outside maybe. And then the Vikings, who so far remain undefeated. It's just them in Kansas City. And they just come in every week, John, with a quarterback that I did not believe in. And I first to admit it, so far I've been wrong so far. But he's played really, really well. And we've come up against everybody from San Francisco and now Green Bay, you name it. And we just keep on winning. Now we go out to the Jets. The Jets are just a team in disarray, by the way. So they're going to – the Vikings, I think, are one side of it. How about Washington? All they do is win. They've got the quarterback that you and I talked about last week. But the guy, John, I can't believe how Jaden Daniels – and we said it, the best quarterback in the draft was Jaden Daniels. Well, he's 77% in completions. He's not throwing a lot of touchdowns. He's also not throwing interceptions, so I'll take his stats there. He's averaging the ball 5 yards a carry. He's already run for 300 yards, 300 yards as a quarterback, and he's navigating the team to actually look like somebody who's relevant. We went into the season probably thinking, well, the Washington Commanders, or whatever name they want to call themselves, are probably going to be at the bottom. They ain't at the bottom, John. These guys are playing ball.
Sorry, Pete, I was muting you because of the drilling upstairs.
Yeah, no big deal.
Somebody's adding a bathroom or something. Yeah, I would say, Pete, that we're seeing some cream rise to the top in some cases. Some revenge play, like obviously the Vikings-Jets. That's fun. Just like the Michigan-Washington college game this week. And the Vikings are the only 5-0 team in the NFL. The only 5-0 team. Now, obviously, Kansas City's 4-0, and they could be 5-0 pretty quick, but that's pretty impressive. That Central Division, or as Chris Berman would say, the Norris Division. I never understood why back in the day Tampa was in that division. People.
Yeah, they just plugged him in. That's all.
But, yeah, there's a lot of great football being played, and you know who's fallen apart in the last couple of weeks, Pete? Seattle.
Yeah.
A team that you and I both were, pretty impressed with. And then, the wheels came off and they were made to look pretty dumb now 2 weeks in a row, and beaten up pretty bad, with a mini Megatron and all that kind of stuff. They just don't have enough right now. And that's going to be interesting to watch, because I think a lot of people were sort of, I'm sure they have been kicking people out of those pools, Pete, those first to lose pools kind of thing. I think a lot of those folks are licking their wounds about those teams, and probably about the Vikings too, but in the opposite way.
Yeah. Well, the Vikings, John, they lost a big part of their team, not for long, but nonetheless, they lost them, and they played a different second half. They didn't play very well. The Jets had a little bit of an opportunity, and it was open for them, and they didn't take it. But I'll tell you what, Aaron Jones, our running back that we took from Green Bay, who'd been there for multiple years, he's kind of the lifeblood of the team. He's got energy. He's got an unbelievable ability to catch the ball, run with the ball, block if he needs to, and sacrifices. He's been a fun guy to watch, and it's always interesting when you get a guy from either Chicago or Green Bay or Detroit, and vice versa, back and forth with all those different teams up there. It doesn't happen often, but when it does happen, it's pretty interesting. And this guy, he wanted his Lambeau leap. He didn't get it, but he's been playing really, really well for the Vikings, John.
Yep, he is a good player, and they miss him.
Yeah.
It's pretty surprising, Pete. What did Aaron Rodgers have 2 pick sixes, Pete, in that game?
I know he had
the one.
Van
But the
Ginkel
other
or
one
whatever.
came close.
Yeah. Van Ginkel is unbelievable, John. This is an outside linebacker from Wisconsin that nobody probably really thought much of him, but he went to Miami. He lit it up. This guy has, I think, 5 interceptions for touchdowns in his early career already. I mean, he's a guy that we could like to refer to as a ball. I mean, he shows up and he's ready to play. He's got the long blonde hair and the whole deal, but I'll tell you what, the guy's a heck of an outside linebacker. He really is.